Howdy folks. So, as the description says in the video, this is about what I think the single biggest threat to the racing pigeon sport is, aside from the birds of prey issue. We all know, and it goes without saying, that the bird of prey issue is a massive one and something seriously needs doing about the issue. But outside of, and it could be argued more important than it by some, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's as damaging, as important as the birds of prey issue. In my group on Facebook last week, I put the following question up. One second. I put this question up. Aside from the birds of prey issue, what do you think the biggest threat to the racing pigeon sport is in the UK and Ireland? And the following came in. Birds of prey, but I said aside from birds of prey. Dave Bunker says fanciers. Wayne Murray says shooting. Dennis Lucy says humans. John Priest said the cost and the big nationals. They've got a ton of money in the bank, still charging too much. The cost and not enough education for the kids. Backstabbing and feds not joining together. Fanciers themselves from Andy Cousins. Bad sportsmanship and constant negativity. Greed, not enough youngsters getting involved in the sport. Shooting, power lines and the cost of things. No youngsters taking an interest in the sport from Jess Davies. Kev Ward. Too many old chiefs, won't change. Set their ways, Indians, just a thought, wink, wink. Don't know what you mean, Kev. Too many clicks, Kristen Cornish says. Backstabbing, two-faced people, Andy Pereira says. Cost, no pet rentals, small gardens, lack of allotments, neighbours, lack of coverage outside the pigeon community. List is endless, but definitely can't fault fanciers for not helping. Having plenty of help and advice from James Massingham. And it goes on. And it got a lot of comments and engagement, as you can see. Steve Gash said, what I've seen and heard over the last few months, I think it will be fanciers themselves that kill it. And you can get the idea of what people said. My personal take, for what it's worth, is the biggest single threat outside of the bird of prey issue are people themselves. Fanciers, or as I call them, flyers, not everybody, of course, but people in this sport, I believe, are the single biggest threat outside of the bird of prey issue to this sport, not just thriving, but surviving. What other sport, as an example, do you know where people are put down for winning? I had a conversation with someone up north last night, and he and his father were not allowed into a club due to being out of the boundary of the club. For them to not be in the boundary of the club boundary must look like a star shape, because they've got 4 flyers, north, south, east, and west, all sides of them, but yet this particular person is not in the boundary. Why would that be? Because everybody's scared of them beating them. What sport, I'll say it again, what sport do you know where people are actively down and held down and referred to in a derogatory manner for winning? I'm not talking about healthy banter, hate the word banter, but I'm not talking about that perhaps you get in football. I'm talking about actively people are put down for winning. Well, it happens in this sport. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have actively seen people being bullied on social media. I saw one flyer who flies with his son. His son's the same age as my son, Zandy, 16 years old. And this person was close to giving up. Why was he close to giving up? Because he was that sick and tired of people, that's the only word we can use at this time of the day, people breaking into his lofts and stealing his birds or harming his birds. Not just once, multiple times. And he posted that he was thinking of giving up. Rodney Petty, it's a pleasure to have you watching, Rodney. For those of you who don't know Rodney, Rodney runs one of the probably best YouTube channel on racing pigeons. He's over there in New York in the USA. Rodney's been doing this stuff a long time. He runs one of the most entertaining YouTube channels on our great sport there is. You should go and check him out. Go and Google Rodney Petty Racing Pigeons and you will find his YouTube channel. One of the good guys doing good things in the sport. It's a pleasure to have you watching, Rodney. So that was one instance. One guy about to give up because he's sick of people breaking into his lofts, taking his pigeons or harming his pigeons. Although it wasn't racing pigeons, just at New York, we had somebody had pigeons all killed. Somebody broke into the loft and all were killed. Decapitated. Why would anybody do that apart from being a horrible, excuse my language, bastard? That's the only word to use. I know a very successful flyer that everybody knows the name of, who I've been speaking to off and on, not very well, but I've been speaking to him off and on, and he's seriously considering giving up the sport in the future because he can't stand many of the people involved in it. Sad times. Sad times indeed. Somebody else that I know, Kyle Walker. Sorry, not Kyle Walker. Jeez. Kyle Douglas. Kyle Douglas, for those of you who don't know, does more for the sport of racing pigeons in the UK and Ireland, probably Europe, but definitely the UK and Ireland, does more for the sport than anyone I know. And how does he do that? Kyle has rehomed already this year over 100 stray pigeons. And I got a message from Kyle via WhatsApp last week. And the message said, I'm quitting. I didn't get the message straight away. I didn't see the message straight away. And I called Kyle and I said, you cannot let these horrible, nasty, idiotic, low-life scumbags make you quit. Kyle's rehomed. Let's just say that again. Kyle's rehomed over 100 strays himself this year. I think it's like 114. He's rehomed 114 strays. He collects them. He uses his own time and money to do this. And before anybody says, why is he even bothering? Kyle has got pigeons back to their owners that did stray off course and have gone on to win big races. The trouble is, 8 or 9 out of 10 pigeon people that he contacts said they don't want the pigeon back. So all Kyle simply did was post on his timeline last week. This is just one example, that he was sending me 2 pigeons down this week. And some idiotic scumbag lowlifes who hate me started jumping on the bandwagon. Kyle's been accused of all kinds of stuff. Kyle has sold some pigeons on a WhatsApp auction group. Not the strays, to my knowledge, but even if he owned the strays and they were registered to him, why not? He's not saying what they are, things that they're not. And this is a man that has used his own time, money, and everything, but yet constantly gets jumped on by idiotic trolling keyboard warrior scumbag lowlifes, who none of them, probably put together, have ever done anything as much as Kyle Douglas has done to help this sport. And particularly when he posted that he was sending me 2 pigeons down. Why are you sending him pigeons? One idiot said. Well, Kyle said because he actually bought them at an auction. Because actually, what I try and do is support Kyle in any way I can. And Kyle has bought another shed just to house the strays now. The last time I heard, he got over 70 strays that he's feeding himself, calling the unions, calling the owners to reunite these strays. And what does he get? He gets hassle. Idiotic, low-life scumbag, trolls, keyboard warriors, giving him hassle to a point where he feels like, or felt like, giving up. Hopefully, he's not going to give up. He races pigeons with his grandfather. His grandfather's raced pigeons for a long time. Why should people like that giving him hassle? He's a young lad. He's a university. He's going to university next year. Why should people, one, be allowed to, and he have to have hassle like this. It's just not right. Not right. So in the last few months, I know of probably half a dozen people, including Kyle, that have been very close to giving up. And on my Facebook timeline, every week or so, you'll see somebody giving up. Now, of course, some people give up because of other circumstances, but I'm telling you, a worryingly, tragically high amount of people thinking about giving up is because of other people. So I think the single biggest threat to this sport is ourselves, in the bigger picture of ourselves. A couple of weeks ago, somebody said to me, I said, it's the 80-20 rule. I said, in society, 80% of people are good people, 20% perhaps are not. And I went on to say, the trouble is that the 20% in this sport make 80% of the noise and cause 80% of the hassle. He went so far as to say it's probably 95%. I'm not sure I believe that because, well, maybe it is. You know what? Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Now, with all of this said, there are some great, lovely, caring, thoughtful people in this sport. So I'm not blanket saying the whole people, everybody, the whole population of the pigeon sport in the UK and Ireland are bad. Of course I'm not. And I know over the last few months that actually one of the weird things that happens is that people being horrible to people actually bring out more good people in support of those people. And I'm blessed over the last few months to have met some really lovely people that you just know are wholly genuine, good people. So the bright side is there are great people in the sport. But unfortunately, there's also some real idiot, low-life scumbags who seemingly won't stop at anything to intimidate and bully people. And I think as a collective, this needs to be stopped. It's just over a year ago since I wrote my second article in the British Homing World. I know we've got some international viewers, so British Homing World is one of our newspapers over here in the UK, a weekly newspaper. I will catch up with comments in a short while. And this is what I wrote. This is a excerpt of one of the things that I wrote. And this was May last year in the Homing World. This was my second editorial that I wrote in the Homing World. I am going to be doing a third one and putting it out shortly. And this was last year. So this was after a couple of months maybe of being back involved in the sport. Negativity, haters and trolls. If you put yourself out there, it's bound to happen. I put myself out there and within a few weeks managed to attract my own little group of haters. It appears my message has spread as far as Australia. With my troll network now developed, for some reason these people have already made their minds up about me, etc., etc. I was disturbed, I go on to say, to see a man on Facebook 2 weeks ago announce that the first race of the season was going to be his last. Why? Because he was sick of all the negativity, haters and idiots making his life a misery. This man was a good flyer, he was a winner and had a winning team. I'm no doubt it helped the situation with these idiots that caused him to make the decision. At the end of the day, most people want to enjoy their birds. Why is it so hard? Where did it all go wrong? That's what I wrote 13 months ago in the British Homing World. And the sad part about that, nothing's changed. In fact, it's got a lot worse, I think. When you have a sport like ours that is declining in numbers at a great rate, really, year on year, and one of the biggest, the feedback, it's not just me thinking this, 80% of the feedback I got out of the many tens of comments on that post into my group was people, which is I already had it in my mind it was people, but I wanted other people's opinions before I did this video about people. People like Kyle essentially being bullied, albeit not in a physical way, but non-physical bullying actually can be as bad, if not worse, than physical bullying in many ways. It extends all over the UK and Ireland. One member I particularly remember being bullied out of a club, couldn't race his pigeons. Fortunately, he's found a lovely club with good people. Like I said, there's good people out there, and he's put all of that stuff behind him. But there's a little pocket of people that thrive on intimidating and bullying people. For people that so-called love the sport, why would they do this? It's a mentality issue, maybe. Maybe there's a jealousy there. But I think it's actually simpler and deeper than that. I think a lot of the people that do this, for instance, and again, I'm only using it as a raw example because it's so new. Go back to Kyle Douglas. As I said earlier, he does more for the pigeon sport than anyone I know that's not paid in any way, shape, or form, uses his own time and money to do so. Why would anybody have a problem with him? And like I said as well, collectively, all of the people jumping on this man's back and the trolling, hating bandwagon, collectively, none of them have done anything for the sport that can ever compare to what Carl's done in the last few years. None of them. And the trouble is, some of these bullies, haters, and trolls are quite clever. Not many of them are not clever, but they're clever in how they do it. Because the persona of the bullying, hating, and troll, by definition, means that people are worried about standing up to them. And that is a big problem. And I think collectively, the good people of this sport need to stand up to these people and need to actively help and look after anybody that is a victim of these types of idiotic low-life scumbags. And I would urge everybody that if they see this happening, to help. One, offer support and an ear to the person who's the victim of it. And two, maybe try and stop it. It's true, I've said it before, you can only be bullied if you allow yourself to be bullied. And that's a sweeping statement. And some people, for good reason, cannot be bothered with all the hassle. There's better things to do with their lives. Life is too short for stuff like this. But I think collectively we need to get together and have a big, deep look at ourselves. Should we, as a sport, tolerate negativity, backbiting, bullying, hatefulness that is going on at the moment? Should we as a sport feel proud that people are leaving the sport because of this stuff? And in addition, in a bigger, even bigger picture, can you imagine other people outside of the sport looking at this and how that would make them see our sport? And we wonder why the numbers are going down. You know, the harsh reality of this sport is that if nothing changes radically in the next 10 years, we will have no sport left that is recognisable in the UK and Ireland. Yes, of course, there will be a hardcore group of people still doing it. But again, numbers speak for themselves. And in the late 80s, there was 60,000 registered flyers of the RPRA. It's just gone below 20,000 now. And yes, like I said at the very beginning, the bird of prey issue is a massive issue. The cost of the sport is another issue. Aside from the bird of prey issue, every other issue that this sport has can practically have something done by every person watching this now and that will be seeing this on the replay. Every issue this sport has got can have a direct helping hand by every one of you watching this now. The thing is, are you going to no longer tolerate seeing people being bullied out of the sport? Are you going to help people that are being bullied? And before anybody says anything, for 1 minute talking about me. Any problems I've had over the last few months are simply because I refuse to be bullied, intimidated, and be told what's going on by people used to bullying and intimidating people. And then when the person they're attempting it against doesn't give in, that's what causes problem. So in no way, shape or form am I talking about me. I will say, however, since my last few months, I have met an incredible amount of lovely, genuine people. Lovely. One such person, who I won't name, has actually two people have given Zandy, my son, a massive helping hand. A massive helping hand. One person's actively mentoring, doesn't want to be named for good reason. And another person has helped him with birds. Many people have actually helped him out and offered him things. I have no time for bullies. Doesn't matter who they are, how old they are, how long they've been involved in the sport. When you stand up to a bully, bullies, by definition of being bullies, are weak. They're either weak-minded, weak in intelligence, or weak generally in life. By very nature, and everybody should stand up. I don't want to hear anybody thinking of leaving the sport because of these people. I told Kyle Douglas, you've got to ignore them. You've got to take them with a pinch of salt. And the rule is very simple now. I implement this rule. Anybody says anything of negativity to you, you block them. That's what social media has. The ability to block someone. You never have to speak to them, hear them again. And if it's a telephone-based thing, most telephones these days have a block facility as well. But that's what I think the biggest single problem outside of the bird of prey issue is, because any other issues we have outside, not including the bird of prey issue, every one of us can help. Like I said earlier, we're the only sport you can think of that actively tries to do people down who win. That actively won't promote winners joining clubs. So if you are being bullied, or you do get crap and hassle from these lowlifes, take a note from me, take a tip from me, who's had my fair share of them in the last 12 months and increasingly still gets them. Do yourself a favour, despite how hard it is, ignore, block, move on. Ignore, block, move on. And if it's more serious than that, report people. Report people to your union. Or if it's that bad, report people to the police. But under no circumstances ever think about giving up the hobby and the sport you love. Every time I go, we have a little rota, Zandy and I, for feeding. But every time I go in and feed the pigeons, and I have a little plastic seat that I sit down with the young birds on, I smile, and it reminds me of just why I love this sport. I go in there and I feed them. They're bouncing all around me. I see my son's face 2 days ago when for the first time he had every single young bird trapped in his loft after flying out within 2 minutes. My son, for a 16-year-old, has had more hassle in a new sport like this than most people should ever have to endure in their lifetimes. But because he's my son, he's had to endure a lot of problems, a lot of hassle. Like I said, he's got some lovely people around him helping him, mentor him. But when I see the smile on his face, like I did 2 days ago, after every single young bird he's got trapped flat within 2 minutes, all coming into him to feed because he'd actually implemented some advice he got, and the smile and the mood that lifted, his mood, his words to me were, I can't remember the last time I was so happy. And that is what these amazing creatures that we love and call a sport does to us. So when I go in there and feed and I see things like that, it reminds me just why I love these amazing creatures and this sport. And that's what it's all about. I'm someone that's had their car firebombed, that's had threats made against them, that's had this, that's the other, constantly people making stories up about me. People that never know me. That's the other thing with these bullies. 95% of these people that don't like you have never met you. But when I see things like I said about Zandy trapping them birds within 2 minutes for the first time and every single pigeon coming in, and when I go in and feed them birds, which I'll be doing in a little while, it reminds me why I love this sport so much. So take that with you. And don't let anybody, no matter what, make you quit. And moving forward, like I said, as a bigger picture thing, as a group, as a community, we no longer should tolerate any of this stuff going on. Any. Because what does it say about us as a community that would enable and would allow this kind of behavior to carry on? It doesn't say a lot about us. And I know personally, as someone that's been at the other end of it, who will never be, I will never allow for myself to be bullied. But I know if I see anybody else at the end of it, I will offer any help I can, advice, help, and whatever. And so should we all. All the good people watching this, let's have a wake-up call to ask ourselves, should we tolerate this stuff? And the answer is no, we shouldn't. And as a bigger picture of the sport, we need a serious thoughts on how we're going to have some new thinking. And that's another video I'm going to be doing at some point. This sport has got to be dragged out of the Stone Ages. Doesn't matter what other the negative people think, and the people that don't want to help the sport, and the people that don't want to see the sport turn around. We can no longer do we have the time to wait around. And as someone that's put themselves out there, like I said earlier, about getting changes happen, I'm a target. That's all right. I don't mind being a target, because if a few good people with different ideas and ways of turning things around that can move forward don't do it, nothing's going to happen. And that isn't doing down any unions at all. Like I've said before previously, I'm a big fan of the RPRA, and particularly Ian Evans and what he's trying to do. But at the end of the day, Ian Evans is a CEO that can't do anything unless 22 people agree. That is not the way it should be. But we need a serious look, which will be a topic for the next video live that I do, about actively changing our mindsets to move this sport forward. Because if we can tackle what I've just been talking about, that sets a good field and foundation for moving things forward. Let's see what people have got to say. Ricky Hessian, I'm well, thank you. Barry Rogers, how are you? There's a lot of things in the sport. What can be done can do it, Mark. Mickey Hessian said that. I think One Off Racing, we used to stand in the back gardens all day, and if it was raining, Barry Rogers said. I agree about that, but again, we got to move with the times, and getting new people in is not. That's not just the key to it happening. Rodney Petty says hello, and like I said, a privilege for you to be watching. Mickey Essing says, Mark, I've had pigeons all my life and I'm 26 now. It's not all about winning, it's about taking part and having fun. Absolutely, completely agree. But outside of your own back garden, seeing your pigeons arriving, whether they come first or 10th, how much fun is there outside of that actual moment? Because there's so much hassle out there for a lot of people. Chris Withers says, very sad how low lives get kicks out of making people's lives miserable. I agree, Chris, but it's actually a reflection of their own lives themselves and a reflection of their own people. Let me the kind of, Mickey Essen, let the kind of people we need in the sport. Much appreciate, mate, for what you're doing, Kyle. I agree. Rodney Petty says, good afternoon from New York City. Rodney, as I said, go and check out his YouTube channel, one of the best racing pigeon channels there is. Reece Sheldon says, just fly your birds, mate, for Christ's sake. I'm not talking about me. I referred to some of the stuff about me, but this is not about me. Trust me, I can handle whatever I've got going on. It's certainly not about me. It's about seeing Kyle Douglas texting me, talking about giving up the sport, seeing another flyer with a 16-year-old son talking about giving up because his birds keep being stolen. People setting fire to people's lofts, people decapitating people's birds. What kind of society do we live in as a sport? And like I said as well, it's the only sport I know where people are actively dumbed down for winning. Jason O'Brien says, howdy, third year racing West Island, met some incredible fans, kind to a fault. Tough racing here, but our club honours is all the we can fly for. Hard to compete against a big team, so we just try. Exactly, that's what it's about. And as I said earlier, this isn't a negative, it's not meant to be a negative thing. It's meant to be a thought-provoking, moving forward thing. There are some amazing people in this sport, absolutely amazing people. Let's see what else comments we've got. Bali, Indonesia. Wow, it's on one of my lists of places to visit. Bobby, Bali, Indonesia. Wow. Carl Douglas is watching. I didn't realise you were watching, Carl. Thank you again for everything you do, and never give up, my man. Eddie Thorpe says, very true. Eddie Thorpe also says there's a lot to tell you what to do with your birds. Listen, there is, and And that's nice in some ways. People are good intentioned people. But the reality with advice is like opinions. Everybody's got them. So you take all the advice in and you filter out what you think works for you, and that's fine. Barry Aldridge, hello Mark, good topic. Well, it needs talking about, doesn't it, you know? Moss Illist, any update on the 7 pigeons? Short answer, no. It's now in the hands of the RPRA. So we will see. Terry Garbett says, flying my first national Saturday, never flew the channel. Good luck to you. I will think of you, Terry. Exciting stroke anxious times, I would imagine, Terry. But good luck and let us know how you do. And let us know in the group how you do. Gertie Pigeon Man says, so true. Why do they? I'll never know, because we love our sport. Been racing birds 50 years and I never had any problems back in the day, but now it's all down to money. I don't think it's all down to money. I think it's people's mentality. The reality is these people we're talking about have a certain mentality. Jealousy, maybe. Not sure. Get some psychologists on them and let's get them analysed and see. Jason Wincop, get ever rid of your contact you have with them. In other words, F them off. Absolutely, like we said, block and move on. That's the thing. James Dunn says detest bullies. Absolutely. Anthony Bracken. Anthony, I owe you a phone call, but Anthony says no. I don't know what that was in relation to, Andy, but let me know. Russell van der Merwe says, why the last show? Russell, you're watching on YouTube, and I don't think it's updated right, mate. But yeah, taking a break from the regular 8 o'clock Monday RPI shows for now, and we'll see what happens down the line. I'm just going to be doing ad hoc lives like this for now. And Romanian people are watching. Great. If you didn't see it, have a look at the interview I did with Gabriel Radu about his international win. Right, folks, that's it for now. Oh, Joshua Wu's watching. How you doing, Josh? That's it. Let's have a long think about it. If you are the target of bullying, intimidation, idiots, lowlife, scumbags, there's always people out there to help you. There's always people that will stick up for you. And in no way, shape, or form should you ever consider giving up the sport that you love because of these people. And I think as a collective, we all should work together to make sure, one, these people that are the victims of it have help and assistance. But also the people that are instigating this stuff know it's no longer tolerated. Because if we don't, I think, aside from the bird of prey issue, it's one of the biggest problems we have. The next show that I will be doing will be about moving forward and changing the mindset that we need to adopt to move this stuff forward. We've got to think out of the box. We've got to not think that's how we did it before. Maybe I sound like a broken record because I was saying this stuff a year ago. But the more I've got into this, the more I realize what's possible and what's not, what's good and what's bad. And it's about working with good people, filtering out the bad, and working on ideas that are possible. So, thank you for watching. I will catch you soon for my next ad hoc Facebook Live. If you're not a member of RPI Group, go and join at facebook.com/groups/Racing Pigeon International. And thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day wherever you're watching in the world.